The second thing I want to mention is within burnout, we see sometimes a lack of joy. And in Chinese medicine, joy relates to the fire element. And it also is very closely related to pleasure. Now, most people wouldn't go to work and say, oh, this is a pleasure. Although they sometimes do, they say that. Pleasure can extend to like, okay, sexual pleasure and feeling good and just being pampered and just feeling great, right? Like that. Sensory kind of pleasure. But it also can relate to things where I enjoy doing this. So if you have a job where you would do that even if you didn't get the money to do it because you would just enjoy it, that's the perfect job for you, right? Because you're enjoying it. Now, for most people, not every part of the job is that enjoyable. There's going to be something you have to endure to, not in every area, but in most areas, there's stuff that you have to endure in order to get the things that you enjoy. Endure to enjoy, right? The trick or the balance is to have more of the enjoying, or for that the pleasure that you get from that to far outweigh the endurance things that you have to endure. Like, for instance, I really like teaching. I love teaching Chinese medicine. I love talking. You can tell that I do because I love doing this channel, right? I like to talk about it. I like explaining concepts to people. I love teaching students Chinese medicine, and I enjoy that. But I enjoy the classroom teaching. I don't mind the teaching on Zoom, but I prefer it when there's people in front of me. I know that. I definitely know that. But I don't like marking. Now, I don't know many teachers who do like marking because I take it seriously and I spend a lot of time doing it usually, and it tends to take a lot of time because I'm doing it. I'm trying to do it as if I was the student and I would want some comments and feedback. I don't just sort of mark it usually and give the answer back, the grade, and they don't know how they got there. So I will take my time, I will take the time to write the comments. What I'm getting at is there's some stuff that I have to endure to do the thing that I enjoy, right? Because you can't do one without the other. But if that was the only job, I wouldn't do the marking just for the sake. Like I don't get the pleasure out of it for doing that part of that job, right? And it's the same in business. It's the same in anything. There's always things that you have to endure. And it might be other people in the workplace. It might be people that are around you and you think, man, if these people weren't here, I could probably just enjoy my job. But if those people weren't around, then there wouldn't be a business. There wouldn't be a workplace, that kind of thing. So I think sometimes that's a part of it. There's too much endurance and not enough enjoyment in the job. But we can also see in burnout there can be a lack of joy. It's got to the point where nothing feels good anymore. Nothing in this makes me want to do it. Nothing in this makes me want to keep doing it. I don't feel any pleasure, anything out of it. If that's how you're feeling, there is hope for you, for sure. If you're watching this video, there's hope. But that's a different place to be than someone who feels some pleasure from some things, but just maybe not enough. But if it's got to the point where it's flat and there's just no pleasure, there's no drive. And what can happen is when there's a lack of wood generates fire. So there's usually a lack of motivation, and then there's a lack of, there's a bit of a lack of joy, but then there's the absolute lack of joy. There's no pleasure at all. And this relates to fire. Fire relates to our heart and our pericardium, particularly in this instance. So these would be things like sexual pleasure is often associated with that. So if there's a lack of wood in your life, there's probably going to be a lack of fire, and then there's a lack of motivation for the bedroom stuff. Sexy time. There's a lack of motivation for looking after yourself sometimes when people get to the point of being very burned out, if we can use that phrase. They might stop taking care of themselves. They might forget to brush their hair, brush their teeth, look after themselves. They might not care that much because they just lose the plot of being able to care about those things. So, they might come to work looking disheveled or not rock up at all or have a lot of absenteeism, that kind of stuff. So that's part of it, right? So ask yourself this question. Is there something else in the way of getting the joy. Now, this isn't so much a Chinese medicine. This is me adding my own 2 cents on it, but people asked for the video, so I will. Ask yourself this question. Is there something else in the job or in this situation where you feel the burnout? It could be working at a volunteer organisation. It could be something where, you might work for a charity or do something, in that way, and you might feel like burned out in that area. So because we want to try to keep this occupational, just to keep it without making the video too long, is there something where you think you would feel joy, but there's something else getting in the way? If you can identify that, you'll be on the way to helping find a solution to it. For instance, like I would enjoy it except for this one thing, except for that one person that's there, except for that I'm in so much debt in my business, maybe, like the business isn't going well and it's just it's very hard. You enjoy you might say, I would enjoy this work if I was able to get ahead and make, at least make a living from it. Sometimes when people are running a business, they're not even paying their own self a wage. There's no money to do that. And we can get into sort of things later in the video about if you're running a business and if that's the case versus if you're in a job, because you're going to have different options in those areas. Ask yourself this question: is there another health problem going on for you in your health, in your life? Like, have you got a health condition? Have you got any? If you have no other health conditions, then it could be burnout. What the WHO definition is saying that it's not another condition. If there's another condition there, that needs to be sorted or treated by itself. Is there something else going on? Because there might be a different avenue to kind of treat that. So the final one I want to talk about is exhaustion or lack of energy. So I've said there could be a lack of purpose or drive, which is wood. It could be a lack of joy or pleasure, which is fire. And there could also be a lack of energy, which, look, that can technically be a few things. Could be a water element problem, could be a digestive issue problem. So often energy deficiency, feeling tired. Firstly, there's 2 things to define here. One is, do you feel better with exercise, even a little bit? Then you're not truly, completely deficient. If you haven't got any energy to be able to do the exercise at all, then it's probably more water element. In Chinese medicine, we think of that as kidney energy, which is where you might get the diagnosis kidney yang deficiency, kidney yin deficiency, kidney qi deficiency, this kind of thing. In classical Chinese medicine, we tend to just think of this as yang deficiency. Before we get to the kidney being deficient or the water element being deficient, it often starts off with digestion. So because that's how we make energy, we do it through our digestion. So you could have spleen qi deficiency. Now, I've got plenty of other videos on those patterns, so they can be part of the scenario there, those kinds of patterns there. And if you're seeing a practitioner and they've told you, oh, you've got dampness, you've got spleen qi deficiency, you've got this or that, maybe those bells are ringing now, right? So lots of people can be going around with those conditions underlying. It just means that your body's going to struggle to make enough energy. And one day, if it's got spleen qi deficiency, one day it's going to get either diarrhea that's looser and looser and you can't properly form the stools, or your energy just gets so tired that you then can't really exercise much at all. And it's kind of like, you need to sleep in the day. And that's much more of a deeper, true deficiency where there's not much energy left there in the tank. It's literally like the fuel is getting low. The fuel's getting low, and then at one point, if you don't fill up, your car will just stop running, right? So kind of the idea. So we could have a lack of energy. Let's get to some tips for burnout. What can we do to prevent it and to treat it, to help treat it? So this is not a replacement for medicine. This is not a replacement for seeing a practitioner, talking to someone, talking to a professional. Certainly there's lots of things where acupuncture can be used, and I'll give you some acupressure, that's self-use of points, but there are a lot of things acupuncturists can do for you, and you might have a treatment and then that might allow your mind to be clearer, and then that can help you to then think, okay, what's next for me? I actually feel like I've got a bit of a spark here and I can make a better decision for myself. I often see patients in that scenario as well. So Firstly, I want you to think about in the tips. This is a bit of me mixing psychology with Chinese medicine and Marieism. So I like to put those caveats there because you're not going to read this in any books, right? This is my thoughts on the scenario. Identify what season you're in. It lines up with Chinese medicine because we think about living in accordance with the seasons, right? The thing about a season is it doesn't last forever. Like winter is coming, but it's not going to be there forever. And when you're in the middle of winter and it's really dark and it's really cold, the thing that you sometimes cling on to is that this is not going to last forever. I'm going to come out of this. Eventually summer is going to come. Spring's going to come. A change is going to come. Whether you like it or not, it's going to come. So that's something to hold on to. Might not feel like it, but things don't last forever. And we can talk about how that can kind of cycle through in thinking about a crisis. I'll come to that towards the end of the video as well. When I mean season you're in, I mean, is this a job that you're doing because you once loved the job and you just have now found that you just don't love the job anymore? You feel like you're burning out in that job. Is this a job that you did for a reason, but you've now lost sense of the reason? But you never intended for this job to be the thing or this career to be the thing. This was a stepping stone, but you've gotten stuck on the stepping stone. That could happen. So identify that for yourself. You might have to stop the video and think about it. That's okay. You might have to maybe write down some things that come to you. Maybe go for a walk and ponder on that. Maybe wait a day and see what comes to you. Then come back to the video, come back to me, and we'll go from there. Is this a job that you intended to be for a set period of time, maybe even? Not so much a stepping stone of like, I'm going to use the money to do something else, but you thought I'll do this for a period of time and then I'll do something else. So that's something to identify that season that you're in, okay? If you're in a season where in your business you think you need to endure this for a reason, there's a reason associated with it, and you know you just need to get through it, and you know it's a hard time, you know it's tough, you feel as if you're gonna die. You feel like you can't live here anymore, but you are enduring it and you are getting through it. You know, they say when you're going through hell, don't stop, just keep going. That's a different place to being where you don't enjoy it and you don't know why you're there and you don't want to keep doing it and you don't have the energy to kind of do it at all, but you know, and you don't, but you, for some reason, you haven't quit yet. So I try to identify that season, and you might need help to do that. You might need to talk to somebody who can help you work that out, or to ask you some more questions about that, or talk to a practitioner or a psychologist or something like that. Okay, ask yourself this question. Can you take a break? Can you? Like, as in, do you have any holiday leave owing to you? Do you have any sick days? Now, sometimes what happens in this scenario, I see this a lot with patients, they've used up all their sick days because they've been sick, they've been unwell, and they're at that point where, well, I've got no more sick days left and I'm worried about losing my job. It's no shame in saying I can't take a break. That's fine. It might be your own business and you can't. You might not have the money to do that. It might cause you more detriment to close the doors and not run the business because of the costs of the overhead costs that need to keep going. If you're in a healthcare business and you see patients, this is a very common scenario. Burnout tends to happen to helping professionals more than other professionals. It seems to be associated with that. Is there a locum that you can call in to help your patients? Because some of the reasons why healthcare professionals don't take a break is because they worry about their patients as well. Like they think, I'm not really enjoying this, but at the same time, if I stop, what will happen to my patients? Who will look after them? So there might be business concerns for you to think about, but there might also be like other concerns where you're like, okay, I actually care about the customers or the business, the people in this thing, and you might think, how could they, what will happen if I'm not there? Even though you might think you're indispensable, you're probably not. Unfortunately, that's a bit mean to say that. You are unique and beautiful and special, but like there are ways of getting help there are ways of being able to take a break. So ask yourself that, can I take, now you might have the means. I'm not necessarily saying everyone in this scenario has got no money and can't do that. You might have the sick leave, but you've just never used it. So if you can take a break, ask yourself, would it be helpful? Do you think it would be helpful to you if I did take a break? You don't have to really necessarily plan what you're going to do on the break, because that might be even more overwhelming. It doesn't have to be a spectacular holiday. It could be a staycation. It could be just time at home, time with your kids. It could be just not being at work. Might open the door for something else new to come into your mind. Now, if you can't take a break, or it's not going to be a big and long enough break. Now, how long is enough? That might be something that you need to also discuss with your own healthcare professional. But ideally, you need to, if it's really is burnout and you've been doing this job for a long time, you might need a longer break, like 3 weeks, to kind of fully, maybe 4 weeks, to kind of really wind down. Because often when people are in this scenario, they might get sick when they first take a break because they're running on adrenaline. And they kind of just let all that go, or they might find it hard to wind down. They're kind of really wired for a while, and they might, if you're running a business as well, you might have taken the break, but you're still getting bothered by emails or different things, before you're able to really shut down and just stop. If that's not possible for you to do that, then ask yourself, what can I do every day or every week that might allow me to get a bit of time away from the business, away from the work, away from that stress. So it could be going for a walk, it could be enrolling in a yoga class, or making time for friends to go for a coffee, something like that would help you. Now, if you're not sure what's going to benefit you, again, the course that I have available will teach you that, because you'll learn to find out what's going to benefit you personally for your element type. And because some people are more benefited by social things. If they're a fire element type, they might prefer social stuff or pampering stuff, or time with their spouse or their partner. They might prefer to a loving relationship type of thing, like a romantic getaway. Whereas if you're a water type, you might prefer an adventurous thing, or to go camping or do something like that. Anyway, there's tons of different things you could do, right? It's not really about what you are going to do. It's about that you're going to take a little bit of time away from work, but you're also going to do something in that time. If it's not going to take a break and a holiday, it's just, what am I going to do once a week that's for me? Even if you just block off an hour in your calendar, do it now. You've got my permission to do that. So that question you need to ask yourself is, can I take a break? Can you allow yourself more time for sleep, food, or exercise, as in not eating more food, but like preparing food, being healthy with food, to look after yourself so that you're in a better place to show up for work? If you want to keep doing this job and you want to try to get yourself out of the burnout, ask yourself what you could do in that way. Okay. All right, good. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how to reconnect with the passion. How can we reconnect with that passion? Is it possible to reignite that passion? It might be worthwhile doing these exercises before you just quit the job, or you quit that business, or you kind of throw in the towel altogether, because there might be things that will help you reconnect, and you might think, oh yeah, actually could just do things slightly different, and actually I'm not feeling burned out now, I'm feeling good, better. So ask yourself this question: when was the last time that you lost time doing something? Now, I don't mean having a stroke or a seizure or something like that, but I mean you did an activity where you just fell into that activity and time went past and you didn't think about it. Could have been like, we just had the Easter weekend, right? So, you spend time with your family, and I remember thinking, oh wow, like several hours has gone past and I didn't, or, oh, it's nighttime now and I didn't realize it. So that was lovely. For me, it's painting. I love painting. Once I get going. Now, for some reason this weekend, I normally would do painting on the long weekend, but I just didn't feel like doing it. But sometimes I do. And when I do, I really just get into it. I could just be doing it for hours. And I'm mentioning that because like passions do come and go. So I don't think, oh, if I had a spare night, I'll do the painting. I don't always feel like doing that. You might connect with something for a bit and then, it comes and goes, the ebbs and flows. That's okay. But ask yourself that. When was the last time, or what were you doing in that time, right? What were you doing? So when was the last time you were doing something where you lost time? What were you doing? Write that down. Why was it so enjoyable? Was it enjoyable because you were just on your own and you were in your own time and no one could bother you? Was it enjoyable because you were with other people and it wasn't really about the thing, but it was just who you were with and you were having a good time and you were able to talk about, you felt free or you felt relaxed or you didn't feel like there was any judgment, or what about it was so great? Like, there could be lots of things, right? So write those things down because that's going to help you discover some things about yourself. Try and then do that with work, right? Go back to a time in your job was there a time when you felt passionate about it? So if there was never a time, and this is a job that you got into for a means to an end, as in, let's say you think, I want to be a musician and I'm going to work at this checkout job so that I can, get money to learn music and sell my albums or be a famous musician, let's say. And, next thing you know, 10 years has gone by and you're still working in that checkout and you're probably not working on the checkout anymore because I've replaced them all with like self-service checkouts. But you might be stacking shelves in the supermarket, or you're managing the supermarket. But you're not fulfilled, and that's not the reason. You didn't think, oh, I'd love to run a supermarket. That would be my job. Now, there's nothing wrong with running a supermarket. Maybe you do want to do that. Good. We need people that are passionate about doing it. But if that's not the reason, you didn't embark in that, or you found yourself in that job somehow, or maybe you're working in your parents' business and that wasn't really your business, and now you're just happening to be working there, and sometimes you can start doing something that you didn't really enjoy and find yourself really enjoying it. Find yourself getting into it. Oh, I didn't know this was part of this. Oh, I've actually found a niche for myself. I've discovered who I am through doing this thing. That can happen. But if it hasn't happened and you've been there for several years and you're watching this video because you feel burned out, well, it's probably not going to happen just by itself. So maybe if there wasn't ever a time, then the thing you need to connect with isn't the job. It's the reason. Why did you do that job in the first place? Oh, because I wanted to be a musician. Well, did you get those lessons? Oh, no, just life got busy. I ended up having a kid and, I can't be a musician now because I've got a kid, or whatever the reason is, right? Or, oh, I can't pursue art or poetry or, writing stories, or, you might have been told you're not very good at it, or that was frivolous, or, these kinds of things. Maybe, oh, that was just a dream and, dreams don't come true, or that's not right for me, or whatever it is. Like, there's lots of these things that happen in life, and you can find yourself just in a position of like, well, why don't I enjoy my job? Why don't I enjoy what I do? So if the job ever was enjoyable for you, what about it was? Like, think back to that time. When was the last time in that job I felt fulfilled? I felt good. Maybe it was a deal that you closed. Maybe it was a sale that you made. Maybe it was, when that particular boss wasn't there, a new boss has come and you just don't feel like things are good anymore, or something like that has happened. Okay, so they're all different questions you can ask yourself to try to nut out the cause of, and what are you going to do? What are you going to do next? If you're running your own business, okay, if you're not running your own business, you can skip this part and go to the next bit. If you're running your own business, I would suggest you do this. Number one, as you go about running your business, whether you have employees or not, right? So you might be a solopreneur, a person that just does it all themselves, or you might be, maybe you've got 2 or 3 employees already, or 5 or 10 or 100. Make a list, a running list. So you just get a piece of paper and you just start writing down as you go every day, everything that you're doing that someone else could be doing, if it's something you don't enjoy doing particularly. So, for instance, in my business, I did this before I hired someone. I don't have anyone that I've hired now, but I have had staff in the past. So I can't really hire someone to see patients, right? as in I could get another practitioner, but if I'm advertising it as Marie Hopkinson, people expect to come and see me, let's say. So technically I could if I really wanted to, and I did have other practitioners working for me at one point, so that's a possibility, let's say. But I used to, you might write down all the things. So, I've made up invoices for clients. I did my tax. I entered data for tax. I wrote out birthday cards to the patients. I vacuumed the floors. I've ordered herbs. These are all things that someone else could do. Now, can someone else automatically do these things? No, you have to train them. Then, okay, so you make that list. Now, whether you have the money to hire someone or not is kind of irrelevant. Making that list will help you just psychologically feel a little bit freer from those tasks, actually, because it means that you're not thinking, I have to do this forever. And then you could run some numbers and think, okay, if I wasn't doing those tasks, and you might even, if you're a bit more savvy with this list, you could write down how many hours or minutes it took you to do that. And then you might notice that every day I spend 2 hours doing things that someone else could do. And you have to ask yourself, if I did things that brought more money into the business or things that I would enjoy, would that be a better use of my time? Or is that possible? So let's say you're doing something where there's plenty of opportunity there. And if you were more freed up to get that opportunity, you could get more income for the business. That might be a better use of your time. I know what it's like when you're in that scenario where you've just got one of you and you haven't expanded. It's actually, I think, the hardest expansion from one person to more than one, because you've not done it before. It's scary as hell because you think, this second person is never going to work as hard as you are. You might be in a situation where the money is tight, as in it's not, you don't want people to think you're not doing well, but it might be hard. And then you kind of can potentially waste money with employees that aren't doing as expedient job as you would want them to do, or there's not a lot of wiggle room in small business. People think, it's all fun and games and you're just like Donald Duck rolling in the cash or something, but it's not like that at all. You just it's hard. It's really hard. So I get that. All right, so that's the first thing. Make a running list of those things, right? The second thing to ask yourself is, what's the biggest weakness in the business right now? It might be you, right? That's a hard pill to swallow, but it could be. It could be, lack of capital. It could be lack of knowledge, industry knowledge. Maybe the industry is changing so rapidly that you can't keep up with it. It could be, lack of staff, like maybe you've got the money to hire staff, but you just can't find the right people. It's, it might be really hard to do that. Whatever it is, what's that biggest weakness? Identify that. All right. The third thing is, can you hire a mentor or a coach that can provide you more objective advice on how you can proceed? Is that within your means? Do you know, you might not know who could help you. So in Australia, we have these small business advisory groups, as in the government sort of puts together these, it's called SBDC in where I live in Western Australia. So there might be things through the local council where you can network with other business people to help you discover who are these people that can provide these services to you. You can find them online and stuff like that as well. You might be able to even just watch a YouTube video about how to find a good business coach or something like that. But these are often areas where people very easily get taken advantage of. If you're a person that's used to just doing it all yourself, you might not even realize that there is a need to have an objective voice there. Now, if you can't pay for someone for their time to do that, and again, be very careful about who you let into that space. It has to be a professional person that's either got a business that they run right now, that's done more than you've done, or they've been where you've gone. That has to be a thing. I wouldn't go and see a psychologist who's never run a business, who thinks they know, and then let them tell you all about how to run a business. No, that's not how it works. So that's why I think these business networking groups can be good, because you can meet people through those ways, through those things where They might even just recommend someone, or you could meet someone. Now, I've had a lot of help with business stuff through people that I've met through having a retail shop next to another person's retail shop. And that's how I've met people in business. Like you get to know people, and it's good to get to know your neighbors. It's good to get to be friendly with them rather than being the person that's just like, oh, never bother me. I don't need anyone else. Anyway, that's another thing. That's another rant. So, if you're in an online business and you don't have a shop and you don't have any neighbors, then go to these networking groups. There's various networking groups that you can go to, and you can, morning coffee groups, business startup groups, stuff like that. That's a good place to start. All right. So ask yourself that. Can you hire a coach or connect with a mentor, either paid or unpaid, that can help you? That would be one way to especially if you're trying to wade through difficult decisions, like, do I keep this business running? Is it running at a loss? Do I keep it running? How long do I do that for before I stop? Those are difficult questions to answer. All right, the next question in the business is, what about this job made you start doing it? Even if you write a small paragraph on that, you start writing about that, it's very powerful to think about, why did I get into this business? Because often we get into something because of a reason, and then when we've lost the passion for it, when we feel burned out, it's a disconnection from that. And you think, yeah, hang on a minute, I've actually been like lured with this carrot over here with something else, and it's not about it. So I see this a lot in healthcare with practitioners that they got into it because they wanted to help people, but then they got jaded by the system, or they got stuck in a system that wasn't allowing them to actually help people. And it wasn't until they broke free from like some kind of system where they were able to go and practice on their own that they felt the freedom to actually, be who they truly are. That could be part of it. Maybe you don't have the luxury of doing that, or maybe you're a doctor and you can't sort of break free on your own because you need to work in a hospital system, and it's, I don't know, you have to, or either you're not doing that or you're not practicing. Finding some way around that, or some way to use what you're passionate about, even within the constraints of the system. But if you don't know why you originally got into the business, you won't be able to reconnect with that. You won't know why that was. Maybe you did it because you wanted to help people, but you've realized, like, it's so hard. You find that people don't stick around because they don't have the money, and you're like, now is it all about money? Yeah, okay, yes, business. There's nothing wrong with business being about money, but there's also an aspect that isn't about money, and maybe you need to reconnect with that part of it. Maybe it's about finding a way that you can give back to society in some way. All right, ask yourself this question: was there ever a time that you enjoyed it, the business? Was there ever a time that you enjoyed the work? What was different about that time to now? What was different about, maybe your circumstances was different. You might have been able to work long days and not. I know some people who have a nagging spouse, and they don't let them enjoy. They don't let them be free in who they really are. That's horrible. Like, I would hate that. That's why I'm single. So I could have put up with someone telling me what to do. Anyway, that's a separate thing. But what I'm saying is that, because sometimes that's it. Sometimes that's the reason. It's not the business. It's not the job. Maybe something else has changed. These are hard questions because this is not an easy area, but these will help you get to the root of it. Ask yourself this: what would have to change now for you to enjoy life or your job now? What would have to change for you to enjoy your life or your job right now? Like, as in to enjoy it now. I'm not saying get a divorce. I'm not saying make a drastic thing like that happen. But what else? What might have to change? Maybe it's more than one thing. Right. So when I said at the start of this video series, when I said identify what season you're in, In business, there are seasons where you have to push hard, and it is really hard. And they give this analogy of the man pushing the boulder up a hill, right? And it's like the weight of that boulder is super heavy and you're just holding it up, and you can feel like that you're close to the top. And once it gets to the top, it's just going to roll down, and you get the big momentum, all this momentum kind of going. And then once it's rolling, and it's been rolling, it actually has a momentum where it starts to go back up the next hill by itself. It's easier to go because you've come from that momentum. And you're kind of almost riding the wave. But as you're getting, especially the first one, especially you push it, or you haven't done this for a while, and you're pushing it up a hill. And what can happen is you're very close to the top. You're very close. But you don't know because you're behind it and you can't see. You literally can't see how close you are. This is where sometimes people do give up. Now, it'd be remiss of me to make a video like this and not mention, if you feel like you can't go on, if you feel, you're going to hurt yourself, harm yourself, commit suicide, you need to seek help for that. Like there is help available. I'll put the helpline for Lifeline below in this video. If you're in Australia, you can call that number for free. And someone will speak to you, right? If you're in another country, find out the helpline and just Google that and find that helpline and get help, or call a friend. And that's what brings me to that idea of like, okay, you're pushing that boulder up a hill. And look, sometimes it can be compounded by the fact that as you're doing that, you're using all your resource, like all your personal resource, all your energy, all your money, all your everything to do that. And you can get to the point where you know that there's going to be a payoff, but if you don't keep going, there'll be no payoff, and it'll literally just be worse for you, right? You might go broke, you might have to liquidate or go bankrupt or something like that, and it could be at that point. But you think, if I can just get, so you might need to call help. You might need to call some help from people. Now, if you can't afford to pay employees or stuff like that, this is the time where you can call on people, maybe call family and friends, maybe call in, there's no shame in that, depending on the circumstances in which you're in. And they might not help directly in your business, but maybe they could help in other areas. When practitioners are taught to help people in crisis, like if you're in a crisis situation, what a crisis means is that your resources outweigh the circumstances you're facing. Just sometimes something that's doable for someone, livable for someone else, might be a crisis for someone else because they've got different resources, different skill sets, different resources based on what you've been through. Like when you've been through a crisis, you've been through something before, you've got the resources from that, so you can kind of withstand more the second time around, that kind of stuff. Anyway, one of the things we do is get people to rally up their resources that they have. What do you have? Who could help you? Like, do you have someone who... a parent who could come and look after your kids once a week, like whether you need it or not, right? Maybe you're studying and you're working at the same time. You're trying to finish a degree and you're feeling burned out. You're feeling like, I want to give up. I can't do this, or I've lost my passion for this. It's very hard. I just can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Getting some help towards that end part might be necessary. Maybe someone can help cook meals for you, or you do like order a meal service or something like that takes the pressure off of things, so that it's not so pressureful. Everything's that take a little bit of that pressure cooker life out, gives you like just that, even that couple of hours a week might be a bit of tiny breathing room that you can kind of use, right? So can you get some help? If you're pushing a boulder up a hill, ask yourself that. Am I pushing a boulder up a hill right now? It doesn't have to be your own business. It could be in a job that you work in where it's just, that's what you're doing in your job, and you work in an executive level job. Often it is like running your own business. Okay. Can you call in some other team members? Maybe there are people in your team that you just need to ring them in, like, as in say, hey, I need you to do this, and don't accept that they don't do it. Like, you need them I need you to do this. I'm relying on you to do this. All right, next one is to reconnect with some passions, discover your strengths, reconnect with your passions through strength discovery. Again, you can do this through the 5 elements, like you can do the course that I put out with 5 element self-care. You can also do the VIA Strengths Survey, which is based on Martin Seligman's research, Strengths and Virtues. You can understand what your strengths. Martin Seligman's a psychologist, and he put forth that people have 24 character strengths and virtues. Discovering what they are in yourself is going to help you understand what makes you tick and what makes you happy, what you should be doing. So reconnecting with passion through that. Right, we're getting there. So that brings us to the end of talking about burnout from a business perspective. If you're running a business, that's a very different kind of scenario to if you're employed. Hope you've enjoyed this video series so far. So the next parts are going to talk about other aspects to do with burnout and also the self-help things we can do with burnout. So I hope you enjoy the next one. You can click on to that when it comes out. Thank you.